My name is Frida Greenbaum, and I am a board member of the Miami Jewish Film Festival since its founding. And I'm very excited to be moderating a virtual conversation with our director producer, David Serero, who hopefully together we will have a candid conversation talking about the film and its inspiration, what we learned, and what we celebrate. And I am thrilled to introduce David to you.
Hello, Frida. How are you today?
I am very happy. I'm very happy to be doing this.
I am so honored, and I just want to echo on what you said. It's really, the honor is really mine to be interviewed by yourself. And of course, I want to give a big shout out to the wonderful Miami Jewish Film Festival, who is, despite the COVID and all the difficult situation, is still bringing beautiful filmmaking and this beautiful Jewish culture, as you said. So I'm eternally grateful to the Miami Jewish Film Festival, and on behalf of our dear friend ELIE TAHARI, which we're going to talk, of course, he also wants to thank all of you guys for showcasing his beautiful story. Thank you, Frida, for doing this. Thank you.
With pleasure. Let me be transparent first. I am a fan of our film festival director, Igor, and I am very grateful. I believe in Beshert, and when he asked me to do this interview with you, he only knows me as a person who's in the fashion business. But as I shared with David before we opened for the interview, I come out of the fashion industry, a career of retail stores, and I myself carried the brand. We were in Texas, we were in Georgia, we were in Florida, and many stores, and we did very well with the brand. And personally, I have to confess now, and I hope ELIE listens to this, I really have never met him, but I am wearing an ELIE TAHARI, and I have a closet full of ELIE TAHARI. I'm not in that business anymore for 11 years, but I continue to buy the brand because I believe that ELIE truly is able. Everybody's seen the film, and those that know of his brand do understand exactly, David, how he's able to capture fashion trend without going overboard and have a woman come before the clothes, but a sense of fashion and style. And I am thrilled to be doing this interview with you.
Well, thank you so much. And I must say, Tahari looks gorgeous on you. So he really put beautiful colors. So I'm very happy. I cannot wear Tahari, unfortunately, because, but, I've seen some beautiful business suits and stuff that he does. And trust me, it's really one of these times when I'm like, too bad I'm a man. I wish I could wear some of his stuff. I'm not yet ready to wear, how do you say, like a jacket, female jacket, or anything like that, but I maybe, or skirt, but one day that might come, In
our world, everything is good. So
yeah.
Listen, David, I thought you were a film director and a producer, and I started reading about you, and then I see that you have this illustrious career as an actor, entertainer, opera singer. I was taken back. Tell us a little bit about yourself, and at this point of your life, to even jump into how the making of this, did you think of it before? Had you had a plan? Was this part of your midlife transition? Tell us how it all came about. But first, I would like everybody to learn a little bit more about who David Serero is and what he has done in the past. You didn't just get born, so.
I reborn today, thanks to you, But no, I'm so delighted by your question. Thank you so much. Well, I'm an opera singer, and I've always loved to entertain people, and I've started to produce shows and write shows, but with my own signature, where I took basically classics that I made them very Jewish, very Sephardic Jewish, and I'm the producer of a film festival in New York, and I always thought that someday I will go into movies by making my own movies and producing them and writing them and maybe even starring them the same way I do for my shows. I write them, I produce, I direct. Of course, sometimes I'm just hired as a singer, but most of the time that's what I do. and then COVID happened, and I met Tahari, Elie, before COVID, right before for the film festival, and I was really inspired by his story. And then during COVID, I had this great partnership with a streaming platform who took some of my shows, theatrical performances, who originally were destined only for archives. They were not destined really maybe to be on YouTube or something. But then a lot of people wanted to have theater. It was a time, oh, theater are closed. How can we watch theater? So all these streaming platforms were more and more demanding of theatrical productions. And then from that, I was like, I cannot produce a fiction movie because actors, wouldn't play during the COVID. So maybe just a documentary. So I thought documentary was easier. It turns out it's way more difficult than filming fiction, because when you have a fiction and you want to illustrate something, you put two actors. I mean, I exaggerate, but you put two actors and they say it, and then you own it, and you don't have to bother anybody. But for a documentary, you need to find archives, and this is really how people make money, by selling you the archives or licensing you, and you have to find archives. So that's really how the movie started. And I spoke one night with the Elie, and he was delighted of that idea, and we connected right away. We became very good friends, and he was very touched actually that I started to look into his life. And as I always say in many interviews, is he's someone that I really would love to look like, someone I look up to, definitely.
You and Elie have a common background in terms of being immigrants and of Sephardi descent. So did that play into one of the reasons of many that you were able to get Elie's trust, that you wanted to do the movie? And you had mentioned earlier that you had in your mind that you might be doing movies down the road. It was an option. It wasn't suddenly one day you woke up. And my question is, had you thought about doing specifically documentaries like this? And was that relationship what sparked it?
Well, if you try always to fit a cube into, let's say, something round, you would have hurt everything. Nothing would work. So it's always whatever you have, you start to design something around it to be sure that you can achieve the best thing to give it justice. I don't think it's the fact to be Sephardi that really convinced Elie. I think it came from two things. The first thing is that he believes that his story needs to be told, and he's someone who is always going with the yes and always let's do it. And this I started to realize that the bigger the person is famous, or the bigger is more known or whatever, the more accessible is actually, or kinder is the person. And the second thing, it has to do with the personality. I told him, look, the way I presented myself, the way I spoke to him, the way I was professional with him, and the way I invited him, and he saw that I'm a man of my word. That all these people, they are approached with a lot of people who have a lot of BS, but this time he saw that it was real, and that he never even asked, did you do movies before? Did you, can I see some of the stuff you've done before? He was like, I trust you, do it. He saw me performing, of course. He saw my work as a stage guy, but he never asked, did you do even some movies before? And he knew that he came right away from the very interview, that he came really from a good place, like from a very caring place. So at the end of the day, that's what it definitely matters. But I've always been passionate about all these stories of people starting from nothing and not only succeeding. I'm not even talking about financially, because he reached out to crazy numbers, but I'm talking about these people who really were a game changer in their own category, in their own fields. Like Spielberg changed cinema, Tahari changed fashion, with the business suit, with all of that. We're going to talk about it, I'm sure. But So I've always been fascinated by these people who started from nothing, came to another country, another culture, another language, and even despite all of that, they still feel they are a second-class citizen, or they are, afraid to raise their voice or anything like that. So these stuff really was really inspiring to me.
For good reason, for good reason. As we saw in the film, ELIE is a very passionate person and very strong in his ideas. So for you, were there challenges because he, even though he trusted you, he had thinking about how he wanted to be perceived? And was there a moment or more than one moment where, as you worked together, he was less comfortable with where it was going and that you had to kind of turn around and do a pivot?
Well, it's I'm used with the stage to always be very prepared, but whatever happens, to be able to pivot, but no, Eli was very comfortable, and actually we see him laughing a lot we see some of it in the movie, but some stuff that I had to cut because I couldn't have a 5-hour movie. But a lot of moments where we laughed a lot, when we had a lot of good time, and a lot of people who knows him, they're like, he's never like that in interviews. And it's true, all the other interviews that he was with, it was not always as passionate. So I think it came also at the right time during the COVID, that he had a lot of time, more time than usual. And as always, if you ask the right question, you will have the right answer. It's some people, you can ask them any questions, they will give a lot of good answers. I'm a little bit like that because I'm used to this exercise. But Eli is someone, he loves the camera, but he's very shy. So there is this double, this double play. But he has such a wonderful story, and he saw how much I dig into it, and he understood that it's also a time, to do it, not when you are on your deathbed, to say your stories, when you are now. And that also gave me ideas, even for me to, not necessarily to do a movie about myself, of course, but I mean, to start to write down memories that I'm afraid to forget in 30, 40 years, So all this kind of stuff, I believe are very important. But he was he is the greatest man you could imagine. I mean, the way he treated me, treated my team, all my team. He invited us to his house. He ordered tons of food for us, which
Always food for the Sephardes. They know how
exactly.
to eat, and they know what to eat. So, for sure.
You always get down to that, to the food. No, he was an absolute sweetheart, and he loved, always comedy in my way to interact to people, always kind of broke the ice. Like, he lives in the most luxurious building of Manhattan, and he has this apartment that you will, I say it because it's public, it's on the press and all of that, but the apartment is like gorgeous. And I would tell him jokes like, Ellie, I'm okay to give you again the apartment for another week, but after you have to give it back. You cannot stay, you cannot stay there forever. You have to give it back. So he is really a sweetheart, and he's so passionate and so emotive, and he loves his employees. He loves his work. He loves every single people. I simply adore him.
You bring to mind, I remember sitting in the showrooms looking at the collection, and when he moved into that last showroom, it was like, oh my God. It was just to go up the elevator and to walk into the environment and sit there. Many designers showed out of closets and they were quite successful, but this was really a testament. So I could only imagine how magnificent the apartment is. But I guess you were talking about your personal relationship. Would you say that there's any one thing that you would share that was a personal moment with Ellie that maybe it made it to the film and maybe it never did? It was like an experience you had with Ellie that moved you, that maybe didn't even, didn't even make it to the film.
Oh, I mean, there were so many things. One of the biggest challenge, Frida, I had on the movie was how to bring 4 decades of fashion. I'm not even talking of life, 4 decades of fashion, you know, plus his childhood, him as a teenager, his parents, his grandparents, how to bring all of that into an hour, you know. And I don't necessarily want to do a good film because, you know, a lot of people tell me, oh, this is such a good film, and you watch it and you're like, all right, whatever. You know, I wanted to do a movie that people can enjoy, you know, and as I believe that we can enjoy something while learning, that it can be instructive. Also, I wanted that movie to be a little bit at the crossroad of for fashion lovers, for people who don't know about fashion, how do you create fashion, but to also to get something from the movie. You know, he said many what I call impact phrases, you know, that I really wanted to be like a typewriter that you see in the movie. I wanted that really so that people can really, I would say, implement and digest every of these masterclass phrases. So he's nothing about luck, you know, trust me. He's really a pure, or everything that he has is the pure result of his dedication, of his hard work, and believe it in it. And also he used his ears. You know, a lot of people succeeded at that time using their mouth. You know, he used his ears, you know, because one of his biggest success, and that is not in the movie, but he told me after, actually, when we were filming, is that he opened a boutique, and he became successful in opening boutique, you know, but it was not his design. It was, you know, other manufacturer that he was selling, and he was listening to what the clients, the women, were saying. They say, oh, I love this dress. Okay, why do you like it? Why you don't like this one? Why would you change in that? What is missing? And that way, he, you know, he's not the guy who is gonna read the stats or an Excel sheet and see, you know, he's just gonna ask, do you like it? Do you feel good in it? You know, when a woman tries something, you know, how she feels, you know.
I think that I hear you, and I know what a good listener he was, because I saw his response to design and how it followed what women wanted. The WWW, what woman wanted, women's wear, you know, you think about it, and ELIE really did know what we wanted. And I think I would love for you to talk a little more, whether, you know, it was just myself watching the movie or whether you've heard it from others. It was always my understanding in design that a designer has a concept and a silhouette in mind, and then they make the color and the theme and the fabric fit into their image. I was fascinated, and I'd love to hear more about, and I think I understand, this is where I want you to go with his textile background growing up, that in fact, he looks at these fantastic fabrics, and the fabrics, although he has design ideas in terms of what women need right now, his passion and understanding of that texture and the textiles. First that, then he did the color, and then he fitted into his design and of course themes. And I'm curious whether, you know, when you did that, did you yourself pick up that that's unusual, very unusual?
Yeah, what I really, I mean, I was used to that because I do, you know, sometimes in my show, comedy and all of that, and I use that kind of I would say of mechanism, which is you have, when, let's say you have a comedy routine, you have some jokes that are A, some jokes that are B, some jokes that are C, some jokes that are D, you know, And of course, nobody writes right away jokes all the time, you know. So what you do is you try them. And as much, if you have a 1 hour routine, step by step, you remove the C, the D to keep only A's everywhere. So he kind of used this technique long before anyone else. So what he did was very smart, is that a lot of the fashion that was in the 70s, in the 80s, even as a matter of fact, in the 90s, and even 2000 also, why not? A lot of the design were, and we talk about it on the movie, were based on European women, you know, because they kind of look better on the paper, and on the advertising, they had European women like that, you know. And so he understood that the body of American women is a little bit different, you know. So he made
sometimes a lot different.
he made stuff with a little bit of stretch, so that, you know, when you move, it could be more easier. But also his biggest, I think, idea, which to me was simple, but he was, and all the designer told me Tahari understood it, is that he used women who were working in his office to be the fitter, you know, of what he was doing. Because the women, you know, it's not the models who buy his clothing, it's average, regular women with big quotes, you know. But he understood that, so he made it try on them, and get also the feedback right away. But also, you do many mistakes, which he told me, we do many mistakes. Sometimes we create stuff, we design it, we think one fabric is the thing, we create our own fabrics, and then they go and they're like, it's not working. So this is why everything, and note well what I tell you, everything that you see on his website or his stores are for sure going to make an impression on people, because they've been so much tried out. They've been tried out in front of people he knows, people of trust, of many, many women. He is surrounded by many women, and he loves and respects them so much, and admires them. It's absolutely lovely. And so it's like, you remember the comparison I told you about the comedy routine? It's only A's. It's only stuff that you know you're gonna look good and feel confident. There are a lot of women who went to see the movie, and they told me, please, you have to say, and I received these messages on email and all that, it's so sweet. You have to say to Mr. Tahari that the first job interview I was wearing a business suit, and I felt so strong, so confident. And every time I had a very important meeting or a very important business decision meeting, I wear these suits, and I felt so much empowered, because he understood that. How do you feel? He used his ears, you know, almost more than his eyes. I exaggerate, but almost as much.
You know, it's funny because I too felt empowered, because I wore his suits, and for a period of my not fashion career, but my Jewish self, I would go to Washington to lobby on behalf of Israel, which brings us to ELIE's Israeli roots. And
Yeah.
I would wear my power suit. I felt, all 5 feet of me felt so strong, so confident. I felt like I really looked the way I'm supposed to look to do the job that I was doing. And frankly, I could buy a dress from his collection and wear it to a special occasion. And if we're talking Jewish, then bar mitzvahs, you know, showers, whatever it is that, but he understood. And I think that it's important what you said in terms of his listening, because many designers in the 70s abandoned spandex because older women didn't understand the disco look. But ELIE, to his credit, did not abandon it. He adapted it to make it sense of it for an older.
And also, if you allow me to jump into that, he wanted always his clothing to be very dancing, that you
Moving.
can use his clothing. Like, by example, what you're wearing, you can go for work, you can have to go to a cocktail, you can go, you mentioned bar mitzvah, you can go even to a fundraiser, and you can go to a nightclub to dance, and it can be also just for the home when you have a friend for coffee, so it's that kind of elegant dress that can be that simply makes you come out. And he always said that the clothing must be quieter than the woman so that her personality can shine through.
Well, that's what I think he does say that in the movie. He said, I think you actually have footage on
For
it.
sure.
You alluded to something in terms of your challenges and something that could terrify you. And you said there were 4 decades of documentary films, in the archives of his work, because he's a man who's been very successful. And how did you deal with the editing of, how did you finally sort it out and be able to select it? And I will compliment you. I was reading what other people wrote in papers reviewing the film, and they said a veteran filmmaker faced with the footage that was available could not have done a better job than you did. So as we say,
wow, that means a lot. I hope.
So how did you do it? So tell us how you did it.
I hope I'm going to get the video of that interview for me, because I'm going to keep that. No, well, honestly, I used again the technique of comedy, which means I did many tryouts. I invited a friend and I showed them the movie, and they said, well, the interview, he's talking too long. After 3 minutes, put something there to change it. Or here, wait, I didn't understand the story here. What did he say, here? So, oh, you didn't get it? No, okay. So let me add that before, that footage before, okay. Here, okay, does it make sense? And then someone told me, oh, be careful, we saw the same dress twice, here and there. So remove it once. Here, the music is too loud. Here, I would imagine music more like that, because at the end of the day, it's the audience that is really the judge, so I'm not gonna have my around my grave, hopefully the later the better, but I'm not gonna have awards around my grave. I want to have people, you know what I mean? So everything I do is always for the people, and I added a lot of comedy also into the movie, which around people also who, by example, ELIE, they're not used to have comedy around them. When he talks about with the cow, or when he goes like that, and I put some hip hop gangster rap style. I put some of the bloopers. He say, how do I start again? All these stuff were very funny because he's such a likable personality, but it was also very hard to get the footage because you had to search from many places, because ELIE is someone who, of course, he looks back to his past, but not in the way that, oh, let me collect all my archives so I could look at my trophy. He looks at his past, like his origin, his culture, but he's always moving forward. He's not all day long on a computer. He takes his phone, he thinks, he hears about something, he thinks it's a good opportunity, he takes his phone and calls, but also I showed the movie to ELIE. I show him 2 cuts. I show him the first thing where I told him, look, I'm going to show you a skeleton. There are a lot of stuff missing. Tell me if you think of this and that. And he has a wonderful, wonderful team with him, and people like CJ Busco, Scott Curry. They're absolutely first-class people, like top of the world. And they also came up, we say, oh, wait, I think we have a photo of that. Oh, wait, I think we have a video of that, or maybe that person might have a video. And of course, the people I interviewed, like Fern Malice, who is the founder of New York Fashion Week, Terry Higgins, who was a very journalist, so business, so she knew how to bring the business side also. And also Denise Basso, Nicole Miller, who are also from the era, I would say, and they're also very important fashion designers. So it was interesting also him to be seen by his peers. And also we bumped into one influencer that I knew, a good friend of mine in Central Park, and she was also ironically wearing Tahari, and she works in finance also, and now she's a stylist, and she told me, look, we put Tahari, we start with Tahari, and then we see where it goes, but with Tahari, for sure, it's like if you are at a Middle Eastern wedding, you put Nancy Ajram, people will dance, or you put Careless Whisper from George Michael, people will love it, so it's definitely a sure card to play.
It's funny, you mentioned all the people that you interviewed, and you were talking about your role in comedy and how you approach the film, and you use that as a way of you're making some decisions, but you didn't mention Joan Rivers. And I was fascinated personally to see that relationship, because until that segment, I must share that I thought he was so serious, so serious. And suddenly you saw him interact with Joan Rivers. And if you had ever seen Joan Rivers, there's no way you stay serious. It doesn't matter how serious you are, you're not staying serious. So
Joan Rivers, may she rest in peace, she was cracking him up all the time, and there is a phrase I always say is that if 9 of your friends smoke cigarette, you're going to be the 10th one, So when you are surrounded by the people of finance every day, so you're very like this, remember that ELIE is the only, among 2 other, the only person in the world who has had $1 billion, still has the business, $1 billion business, for more than 40 years and still be the sole owner. And the other 2 are Ralph Lauren and Giorgio Armani, So just to give you of where he stands, that he's not just a genius in terms of design, but he's also a very smart businessman. But anyway, to get back to Joan Rivers, we owe to Scott Curry, one of the very dear collaborator of ELIE, this interview with Melissa Rivers, she's such a sweetheart. She's so passionate and she's so brilliant. And beside having her own, of course, career, and I follow everything she does. I'm a big fan. She's also bringing a beautiful legacy of Joan. So she was perfect because she would bring something. She's a celebrity. She would bring something new also to the show. And also, she would talk about one thing that I heard a lot with Tahari was the relationship between mothers and daughters, that a lot of the mothers have bought Tahari clothing for their daughters, always, because, they grow, they just want to start to wear like the mom, and the mom gave Tahari clothing to their daughters, because I interviewed also regular people, so that was also interesting. And there was that beautiful phrase from David Dengour, who said, when he gave an award to ELIE Tahari, he said, I have 4 daughters and we heard your name many times.
I'm sure he saw it on his checkbook many times too. No
exactly. But ELIE, also in terms of because I worked with a lot of people into fashion when I prepared that movie, they all told me that ELIE has the most fair price, like between the high quality and I told him sometimes, now you have the name, you can sell almost everything. He said, no.
For him.
Once you have killed the name, that's it. He said, I rather lose than show something that is not to the expectation. This is why he spends, sometimes, I don't know, the fabric is barely 5 to 10% of the price. With him is more than half, just to give you an idea. So he puts really all his craftsmanship, but also every resources to bring the best things, so that when it's presented to the client, to the level that where you're going to buy it and see it in the stores, you can be sure that maybe, of course, you're going to like it, but even if you feel like, oh, not so sure, you can be sure that they've been tested on women who wore it, but also on people who saw it, which is very interesting.
You know, you're 100% right, because I would be in my community and I would be wearing Tahari, and there could be a woman wearing Chanel next to me, and I never, ever, ever felt that I didn't price my inventory as high as those other designers, but I never felt like I was compromising. And I think
Absolutely.
you captured that beautifully.
But you know what, Frida? My apologies again for cutting you off, but you know what? This is what you just said. You never felt between Chanel, like in front of Chanel. You know what we call? You know how we call that? America. America is the only country in the world where you can have a doctor, a neurosurgeon, etc., being the same room than I don't know, someone who waits stable or anything like that, And this is why in the closing of ELIE TAHARI, there is the American dream as well, that anybody, regardless of their social background, when they wear his clothing, they feel at the same level than the top of the world, which to me is America.
You actually, it's interesting. I think we're simpatico now, because I was actually going down that road, the United States of ELIE TAHARI, and yet the footage, and honestly, having been back to New York for the first time in 2 years last week, after seeing the documentary, I walked from my hotel down 42nd Street, and I was standing like I thought you filmed Ellie's, like in that scene in front of Times Square. And I could only think, it's an amazing place. And I personally loved, and I know the viewers will love it, that place, that spot. It's Bidyuk, exactly like you said. It's a place where every style, a woman in a velvet coat and high boots, another one with ripped jeans, another one with a beautiful tailored suit. Everybody's equal. It all works here. And ELIE is that person. And I'm imagining, you said the United States of ELIE TAHARI.
That's why I called the movie like that.
I was going to ask you, how did you come to the name? Because part of me was thinking, you kind of answered it by saying the American dream. But on the other hand, I was thinking, ELIE spent his years from the benches in Central Park. When he didn't have money, he slept overnight in Central Park and, parking cars. And his life is New York. So tell us more about how that played into your decision.
Well, absolutely. Thank you for asking. I did a little word play, which got lost, but it was okay. But it's that, there's the states of the country, but there's also state of mind, So I say he went to many states, like first to the Iran, to Israel, then the refugee camp, the army, the benches, then coming to New York, having nothing, then the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, the fame, the way he rearranged himself, and he always continued to renew and grow, and being so generous and being so kind with people and the family and your culture, and created thousands of jobs. Let's talk about that. Thousands of jobs, and paid millions of taxes, and contributed millions of dollars of taxes, and contributed so much to the US economy. So I thought it was many states. So I was like, it's the United States of ELIE TAHARI. And later I changed the United States of fashion designer ELIE TAHARI. But yeah, that was really his story, because I believe a man or a woman, we are the result of an equation. It's 1 + 5 + 10 - 3. You had, if you had cancer in your life, you're not the same person that if you didn't have it. If you were born as an orphan, you're not the same adult that if you would have grew up with your mom and dad. So we're all the result of an equation. And I believe what is the biggest, I would say, mathematical change in his equation. And for me, it was America. So there was one review in I forgot which country it was, Lithuania, maybe, I don't forget where it was. And it was played in a movie theater over there. And one of the critics said, oh, it's American propaganda, American propaganda. I really don't think so. But for me, yes, would he have been the ELIE TAHARI we knew if he would have had a career in Chile or, in Peru or in Russia? I don't know, because there was something that with disco, with New York, the era when all these immigrants arrived and no Americans wanted to really trust them. So they were working together, the Jews in the garment market, which so it was something that there was a joke I cut it at the movie because I thought that was like a heavy joke. I said, do you know what is some Jewish mother had two sons. One is going to make a medium career, is going to be a cardiologist. The second is going to have a big career, is going to be a schmatologist, like from the schmatz. So
by the way, that was a wise cut, because when somebody will say to me, you're in the schmata business, it's like, ouch.
Oh, yeah.
No, it's interesting because I speak Yiddish and it shouldn't be doing that, but there's something that is almost demeaning to it, to me, and I don't know that it's always intended. So I thought that's a good cut. That was a good
cut. No, I mean, I had also, cuts such as, you have to understand the people of Iran in those days that chased, literally, who burned the store of Eddie's father, are not the same Iranian that we can see today in America, and who are absolutely adorable people. As a matter of fact, the movie was even played in Iranian film festivals, and I was sure they're going to cut like the Israel stuff, and not at all, absolutely not. And as a matter of fact, even won an award. But and we are working to have it played in Iran, in movie theaters in Iran. And I said to Eli, Neshama, because I call him Neshama, my soul, I say, Hamoudi, I say, if I'm invited to Iran, because my mother was born in Iran, so I say,
I knew that you had a immigrant story, but I didn't know your mom. I knew
that has to be. My dad was born in Morocco. My mom was born in Iran. I was born in France, but in Paris. And I said, we go, and he said, I go 1,000%, But one thing I learned from the movie way after is that when I showed the movie to my mom told me, do you know that I was in Mabarot, in the refugee camp, at the same time that Eddie was?
Wow.
And she recognized the pictures and all of that. So, it was
beautiful. I have a question, and I think that we're going to have to come toward, I could ask you many more questions, and I'm
as much as you want. It's a privilege and it's an honor.
I would like to believe that you'll be making many more films that will be part of the Jewish film festivals and other places, and that we'll get to meet in person in a better year. But last question on the film itself. Elie briefly spoke about family, not his history, but his current family, and I believe he has children, as you mentioned in the film, as was mentioned in the film. But there wasn't a whole lot about his personal family life from once he arrived. And I'm curious, was that edited for another day's movie? Is that going to come in another film, The Personal Life of ELIE TAHARI? So how did you make that decision, and why?
No, well, he spoke with about his children. He spoke, he was married once, and nothing is going on much in his personal life. He really loved his children to death, and it's so funny because he will cut himself the fruits for his children, even like now, And I just would like to do one thing, Frida, because I think um, I think it needs נשמה, מה נשמע חמודי? תשמע, אני עכשיו בטלוויזיה בשביל for the Miami Jewish Film Festival, okay? And the lady I'm interviewing, you know, I don't know if you see, she's wearing Tahari. The lady, you know, this is for, you see Miami Jewish Film Festival. So we're talking about you. And I said, you know, and I apologize if I didn't told you in advance, but I said, let me do a surprise exclusively for the Miami Jewish Film Festival and for Frida. And I said, let's call you because they adored the movie and your life.
Loved it. We loved it, and really a big surprise for me personally, because I used to sell your clothes, Ellie. I had a chain of stores. We did business as CMJ, and we absolutely carried and sold, and I wore, and I went to lobby for Israel in your suits. And this morning took me a long time to get dressed because I couldn't decide which ELIE TAHARI I was wearing.
Wait, I put it for you so you can see. Yeah.
So really, I hope next time we will get ELIE to come to us.
Blue purple jacket. I thank you so much. You made me so happy today. It makes me so happy to hear a customer and a good loyal friend talking about the product. Thank you so much.
But
Well,
let me just say this. The most important takeaway that I had is that, as we say with our people, you're a mensch. You are a good person. You're a loving person and a caring person. And your kindness, your courage, your tenacity, everything came across in the movie. And I think David did an amazing job putting you out to the world.
yeah, wait, she was just telling you, that you are a mensch.
You're courageous,
that she really loved the movie.
Your courage, your inspiration, and your story really is a heroic story, not just for an American, but for a Jew. And your story, everything about your family that you grew up loving, the textiles, the feeling, and how you helped them. It's a beautiful story, and I'm very, very, very happy that we are featuring it at the Jewish Film Festival for so many of the women who love what you do, who did not know about you personally, to have the opportunity.
Thank you so much.
Well, listen, I know you are very busy. You're in the car, but I just, you know, wanted to show that I have some connection with you that I didn't, that I knew you a little bit.
Thank you so much.
תודה רבה נשמה, אני אוהב אותך. תודה ממי. להתראות ממי.
Thank you.
Bye, Misha.
This
Bye,
was
Mami.
special.
Bye.
David, thank you so much for doing
Did you see that?
Honestly, I really wanted
I'm
to
sweating. I'm sweating.
As they say in comedy, I'm verklempt. Did you notice I took off my glasses?
Yeah, I'm going to remove my hat, as a matter of fact.
So,
No,
you know what? Let us tie things together, because as I said, I would love for you to come back and be here in person, and we can do this. I would love for you to come to my house, but I do know Sephardi cooking. I'm not.
So we will
So
take you on.
I have a chance. I have a chance.
I wrote him very quickly. I said, can I call you with video, please? And he said, of course, you're my friend. You can call me anytime. He wrote that.
I love that you called him Hamoudi.
Hamoudi. I called him Hamoudi. Nobody in his team, it's all Mr. Tahari, Mr. Tahari. And I'm like, Hamoudi, Neshama, Neshama. He's the sweetest guy. He is, you know, he is to me, I understood that the American dream, it's something that you pass by like a baton, you know, and it's true that, you know, as Melissa Rivers says it in the movie, that usually people tell the story of their parents, their grandparents, and say, you're lucky when you can hear the story directly from someone's mouth. At the top of his game, because ELIE is so sharp. He's so creative, so smart. I mean, I want to look like him someday, you know.
Well, I think many. So tell us before we our time comes to an end, what's next for you? You said you're in Paris filming another movie. Are you able to share anything?
Of course. Well, you know, for you, I have no secrets. You know,
this is good.
at the Miami Jewish Film Festival. First of all, I want to thank Igor. I want to thank Douglas. I want to thank you. I want to thank all the community of Miami, all the people of Miami. And when I say all the people, is any ethnicity, religion, because I make you remember that you don't have to be Jewish to appreciate a movie. You know, it's open to everybody, and this great festival does it perfectly. Like, you don't have to be British to like Shakespeare, you know what I mean? So that's so next projects anyway is a new movie about a documentary. Now people ask me documentaries because they really loved it. So a documentary about a big filmmaker named ELIE Shoraki, another ELIE, who is a very dear friend of mine. And it's very interesting because I want to show not just fashion the way I did it, but I want to show the filmmaking, but, you know, very with entertaining, but also I want people to be inspired by people's personality, because with a personality, you can change the world. You know, it's one day people say, oh, why don't you try to go to space, you know, or why don't we try to have a car or to have a plane, you know, that the world is changing. Oh, let's try that thing, internet. What is it? You know, so it's about personalities. And so there is about ELIE Shoraki, one movie, and another one about a very famous film director, also from France, who is also Jewish, Lisa Azuelos, who did a lot of movies in France and also in the US. She did the movie LOL with Miley Cyrus and Demi Moore. And so there are these two movies. And of course, I have a lot of shows. I'm performing in Dubai in 2 weeks, a lot of concerts. And I received offers to produce a TV series and also a talk show, you know. So I'm super happy, and it's only the beginning. It's like I feel, you know, since I started to do movies, it's like I'm starting my career now, you know, because I've been singing for almost like more than 25 years. So I feel like, you know, I've done it. Of course, I enjoy it. I need to sing every day almost, but I'm excited now with going with the unknown of the movies, and now with the TV talk show that I've been asked to produce just a few weeks ago for a new TV channel that there's in France. So it's fun, and I can't wait to go back to New York in February and do more shows off Broadway. I'm really excited.
Well, I hope that one day I get to New York to do my work often.
You're my guest.
God willing. And I just remembered when you said you don't have to be Jewish to go to see the film. I was thinking, does this put me in an age category? You don't have to be Jewish to love Levy's.
Yeah, exactly. That's I use some of it, you know, or to, what was that delicatessen, that Cats, you know,
Deli.
They had that. You have to be Jewish to love cats, you
That's
know.
right. Well, once again, I do want to thank you, David, and I want to thank, as you already did, all our sponsors, all our members, the community partners, the volunteers, especially the volunteers at the film festival who make the film festival the success it's been, and all of the film lovers participating in our 25th year milestone. And I do hope we'll get to do this again with another movie, and if not, just to come visit. Miami is a very welcoming place.
Anytime. God bless you. Thank you, Frida. Thank you, Miami Jewish Film Festival. Thank you so much, you guys.